The Albanese government has been accused of attempting to hide significant costs to business involved in this multi-employer bargaining proposal. It was a pretty fiery debate in question time yesterday, if you caught it. The Small Business Minister, Julie Collins, blamed bureaucrats for the mistake in the Industrial Relations Bill. The opposition says the error further emphasised the rushed nature of the bill. Joining me live now is the Shadow Employment and Workplace Relations Minister, Michaelia Cash. Welcome back to the program. It's been a long time between
Laura.
Drinks. Good to see you.
It has been drinks with you and I, yes.
Okay.
Great to see you.
Senator, let's get to the bottom of this. Is there any acceptable form that you would like to see this bill passed in? Multi-employer bargaining, if they change the definition of small business, would that be acceptable to you?
Well, given what was being exposed yesterday, in particular in relation to the failure to properly cost the regulatory impact statement and the costs on business, this now shows we're moving from the absurd in terms of the Albanese government rushing this legislation through Parliament to the absolute farcical. I mean, look at the sources that they are utilising to cost per hourly rates. A modern-day spiritual healer? I mean, you've got to be kidding me. And then in relation to another footnote for the cost of payroll services per hour, they use bark.com. You click on their most utilised services: dog walking, pet grooming, private investigators, limousine hire and magicians. What this shows, Laura, is the minister did not read the regulatory impact statement. Well, the minister should take full responsibility for that. But more than that, the complete contempt they have for every employer in this country who has been screaming at them for some time, this legislation will do nothing to get wages moving, will lead to increased strikes and job losses, and should be pulled and properly considered over the Christmas break.
So what do you say to David Pocock? Because the truth of it is that you don't have much power in the Senate right now. It's going to be down to David Pocock and potentially Jackie Lambie. So what do you say to those two senators?
Well, I would say that David has been upfront. He has a real issue with the process, as does Jackie Lambie. They have a real issue with the impact on small business. If you are dinkum about your concerns for the impact on, in particular, small businesses in this country, Mr Albanese needs to be told fairly and squarely, just pause. Pause. When you've got every employer group in this country standing up and saying this legislation will not increase wages, but what it will do is increase strikes, which could only increase job losses. And Laura, just remember, employers create jobs, governments don't. Governments put in place frameworks, and employers are saying to Mr Albanese and Mr Burke, this is the wrong framework that'll have a detrimental impact ultimately on Australians.
OK, but look at what just happened with Svitzer and its employees. The Fair Work Commission lambasted them for what was, economy damaging action. There's sections of the economy where employers seem to be taking advantage. Do you agree?
Absolutely not. And what Tony Burke has conveniently forgotten to tell the Australian people is this agreement expired in 2019. There has been tens and tens and tens of meetings. Svitzer has been very upfront with the union. They will lock in pay and conditions. They will, they're looking to actually change their work practices. Laura, one of the work practices is no maintenance can be carried out after 5 p.m. on weekends or public holidays. They work under some of the most restricted port operating procedures in this country. We're not competitive globally on that basis. So Tony Burke, happy to actually talk about Svitzer, but conveniently forgets that the unions have been taking industrial action around Australia time and time again.
Sure.
But he doesn't talk about that.
But this is a multinational company. They made around $380 million profit, I think, last year. And they've asked to, essentially, employees are saying they've been asked to roll over for conditions that would essentially, overall, see their pay reduced. That doesn't sound fair.
And Svitzer completely denies that. As I said, this agreement has been in negotiation, expired in 2019. Svitzer has done everything possible to work with the unions. But are you telling me that a company operating a port should not be able to undertake maintenance after 5 p.m? Can you imagine in this studio, if your maintenance people walked off at 5 p.m, what would you do, Laura? I'd say you would look at changing that procedure.
Well, we'd be in trouble, let me tell you that.
Correct, exactly. And this is a port that has to compete internationally.
Employers are telling, sure, but they're a multinational company and they run a massive operation and they're near monopoly status, right? But that example you give me, sure, that doesn't seem fair or reasonable, but employers are telling me that that's a red herring.
Well, that is not what Svitzer's saying, and as I've said, they've made it very, very clear they are locking in pay and conditions.